He's the famous TV pastor leading one of the largest congregations in the country.
If you're ever in our area, please stop by and be a part of one of our services. We're praying for you.
Joel Osteen, the controversial megachurch pastor, has faced growing criticism in recent years, particularly for taking $4.4 million in COVID relief loans meant for small businesses while living in a $10.5 million mansion. Despite leading the largest church in America, Lakewood Church, only about 1% of its budget reportedly goes toward charity. Known for preaching a message that God wants you rich, Osteen charges $15 for tickets to hear him speak and rarely discusses sin or even Jesus on his widely viewed TV show. When accused of being fake, he responded not with humility but by purchasing another $3 million home. With declining church attendance and increasing scrutiny, his trademark smile is starting to show cracks. Born on March 5, 1963, in Houston, Texas, Joel grew up in a deeply religious home, the son of John and Dodie Osteen. His father, a former Southern Baptist pastor, had embraced faith healing after the 1958 birth of his daughter Lisa, who had severe disabilities. That event led to the founding of Lakewood Church in 1959 in a rundown feed store with only 234 seats. By the late 1970s, it had grown to over 5,000 attendees. While his siblings served as preachers and ministers, Joel preferred to work behind the scenes. After graduating from Humble High School in 1981, he briefly attended Oral Roberts University to study media but dropped out less than a year later. In 1982, at just 19 years old, he returned to Houston to build Lakewood's television ministry, producing, directing, and editing his father's sermons. Though he had no formal theological training, those 17 years behind the camera taught him everything about how to craft a message and how to market it. For years, Joel refused to preach, telling his father, "You're the preacher. I'll make you look good on TV." But in January 1999, he finally agreed to preach his first sermon. Just 6 days later, his father died of a heart attack. That sermon was the last one his father ever heard. Thrust unexpectedly into leadership, Joel found himself the pastor of a 6,000-member church with no formal ministry experience. Many doubted his ability to lead, but something clicked. Attendance exploded, and by 2004, Lakewood was drawing between 25,000 and 30,000 people every week, making it the largest church in the United States. Joel invested heavily in primetime TV slots and eye-catching billboards, and his simple, hopeful messages resonated widely. In 2003, he made a bold move. Lakewood leased a compact center, former home of the Houston Rockets. The deal cost $12 million for a 30-year lease, with an option to extend another 30 years for $22 million. But even more shocking was the nearly $95 million renovation, about $158 million today. Over 15 months, the sports arena was gutted and transformed with waterfalls, classrooms, studios, and 5 new interior floors across 200,000 square feet. When it reopened on July 16, 2005, every one of the 16,000 seats was filled. Lakewood had become something the world had never seen before, a basketball stadium turned into a church, attracting millions of viewers and thousands of weekly attendees. In 2010, the church bought the building outright for $7.5 million. But even amid all the success and spectacle, the growing wealth, criticism, and questions about authenticity continue to follow Joel Osteen's rise to religious celebrity. For many Houstonians, the former NBA stadium once home to the Houston Rockets had transformed into something entirely new, a megachurch filled with lights, music, and Joel Osteen's signature message of positivity. Weekly attendance at Lakewood Church soon surpassed 40,000, and its TV broadcast reached an estimated 10 million viewers across more than 100 countries. What started as a local church had become a global movement, a media empire, with Osteen at the center. Unlike traditional preachers, Osteen didn't focus on sin, guilt, or judgment. Instead, he preached hope, dreams, self-belief, and trust in God's plan. Critics called it Christianity light, but his followers didn't care. They found comfort in his smile and reassurance in his words. From early on, Osteen understood the power of media. Within a few years, Lakewood broadcast reached 92% of American households. By 2017, the church was spending $25 million annually on media, including its own SiriusXM station. Osteen began his Night of Hope Stadium events, which drew tens of thousands and felt more like concerts and church services. In October 2004, Osteen released his first book, Your Best Life Now. Many expected little from the unknown author, but within 3 months, it had sold over 500,000 copies. By May 2005, it passed 1 million and went on to spend over 200 consecutive weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. Ultimately, it sold over 4 million copies worldwide and redefined religious publishing. Joel's friendly tone and motivational message reached far beyond Christian circles. He followed it with more than 15 books, at least 7 of them New York Times bestsellers. His 2005 release, Become a Better You, reportedly earned him $13 million in advances and royalties. Live events brought in even more. He earned between $100,000 and $200,000 per speech, regularly filling arenas across the U.S. and internationally. In 2013, he launched his official Night of Hope Arena tour, charging about $15 per ticket. These events drew massive crowds. Over 20,000 people filled Miami's American Airlines Arena in one instance, and in 2019, he filled London's Wembley Arena. This wasn't just preaching, it was high-production faith entertainment. Lakewood spent $6.7 million on these events in 2017 alone. Yet the returns were immense, and Osteen wasn't just preaching to churchgoers. He went mainstream, appearing on Oprah, Larry Kim Live, and Good Morning America, bringing his message to audiences unfamiliar with traditional Christian programming. In his 2005 interview with Larry King and again with Oprah in 2012, he addressed criticism of his prosperity gospel head-on. He didn't emphasize sin or rules. Instead, he spoke like a life coach, uplifting, positive, and focused on success. This strategy worked. Today, Joel Osteen reaches more than 10 million people weekly across TV, podcasts, and social media. His message of positivity, faith, and self-belief has drawn fans from all backgrounds, religious or not, and made him one of the most followed religious figures in the world. But behind the scenes, the numbers paint a more complicated picture. The Osteen brand reportedly brings in around $55 million annually, and Lakewood Church operates on a $90 million yearly budget. Despite the vast income, only about 1.3%, roughly $1.2 million, is spent on missions and charitable outreach. The rest goes toward weekly services, media production, live events, and administration. Critics argue that this imbalance reveals a greater focus on personal branding and showmanship than on traditional ministry or charity. And while Osteen continues to preach abundance, purpose, and hope, many question whether the church's lavish spending aligns with the gospel values it claims to represent. Some began to question where all the abundance Joel Osteen preached about was truly going. His rise to global fame didn't start with a dramatic event or celebrity encounter. It began in 1985 with a simple errand to replace a watch battery. At a jewelry store in Houston, Joel met Victoria Iloff, a psychology student working in her family's shop. That small moment changed everything. Just 2 years later, on April 4th, 1987, they were married. At the time, Joel was still working behind the scenes at Lakewood Church, but Victoria's presence would prove transformative. Her background blended science and faith. Her father was a NASA engineer on the Saturn rocket project, and her mother was a Sunday school teacher. Together, Joel and Victoria built a ministry that would reach millions. Nearly 4 decades into their marriage, they have weathered public scrutiny, personal pressure, and the immense challenge of leading a megachurch. Victoria, born in Huntsville, Alabama, in 1961, had been raised in the Church of Christ before moving to Houston at age 2. After marrying Joel, she started with small church roles but eventually launched Lakewood's women's ministry in 2003. It quickly grew, and her influence on stage became nearly equal to Joel's. Her best-selling book Love Your Life debuted in 2008 with a massive first print run and quickly hit number 2 on the New York Times bestseller list. Her journey from retail to becoming one of America's most recognized female pastors was marked by energy, conviction, and resilience. Victoria didn't just follow Joel, she helped shape the platform they now share. Their children, Jonathan and Alexandra, grew up under the spotlight of Lakewood Church. Jonathan, born in 1995, pursued media and worship leadership early, graduating from the University of Texas in 2017 after leading worship as a teen. He began preaching by 2019. Alexandra, born in 1998, became a lead vocalist for Lakewood's band LYA, gaining recognition through songs like I've Got a Fire on Spotify. Both children have taken active roles in the ministry and music, helping expand Lakewood's youth reach. Through it all, Joel Osteen's message stayed focused on what's known as a word of faith or prosperity gospel, a belief that faith-filled word can bring health, wealth, and success. Osteen once preached, "God's will for you is to pay your bills, not be in debt, and to live in health all the days of your life." His followers loved this message. His critics, however, were appalled. What made the backlash stronger was the scale of Osteen's platform. Lakewood draws over 40,000 in weekly attendance, with millions more tuning in globally. Osteen himself is worth an estimated $40 to $60 million. Critics argue that if the message is about faith, it seems to financially benefit primarily one man. Some Christian leaders accuse him of twisting the gospel, teaching that illness or poverty stem from insufficient faith rather than real-life hardship. This led to accusations of promoting a form of religion devoid of repentance, suffering, or grace. He rarely preached on sin, hell, or sacrifice, and he openly admitted he preferred not to. Instead, his sermons sounded like motivational talks, encouraging people to become a better you. His book sold millions, but theologians warned his style of preaching offered Christianity without a cross. Critics dubbed it cotton candy gospel, sweet and easy, but lacking spiritual depth. Renowned theologians like Michael Horton called it heresy, while J.I. Packer viewed the lack of repentance as a serious red flag. Others said it made faith about personal gain rather than about God. This mindset, they argued, led to antinomianism, the belief that grace allowed for a life without moral responsibility. Jesus warned that life does not consist in the abundance of possessions, but that message seemed lost amid Lakewood's grandeur. Still, Osteen's rise continued, unshaken by controversy. Lakewood churches handling a communion and baptism has long drawn scrutiny. These are considered sacred acts in Christianity, yet for years critics claimed Lakewood rarely performed them or didn't emphasize them clearly. This raised concerns that core Christian traditions were being sidelined in favor of Joel Osteen's trademark feel-good message. In 2025, Lakewood baptized hundreds in one large-scale event, proving the rituals did happen, just not in a traditional way. Even Osteen's preaching style stood apart. He never used notes, memorizing each sermon and rehearsing them like an actor. His delivery was polished, his eye contact steady, and his timing precise. Each message clocked in at 27 minutes, the ideal TV length. This made him popular with viewers but uneasy among theologians who noted his sparse Bible references and minimal emphasis on salvation. Compared to his father, John Osteen, known for deep biblical teaching, Joel's sermons often felt more like motivational speeches and theology. The criticisms intensified in 2020 when Lakewood Church received $4.4 million in federal COVID relief through the Paycheck Protection Program, funds meant to help small businesses. With a $90 million annual budget and Osteen's personal wealth estimated in the tens of millions, public outrage erupted. Although Lakewood later returned the full amount and claimed none went to Joel or Victoria Osteen, the backlash sparked national debate about money, churches, and government aid. That same year, it was revealed that only 1.3% of Lakewood budget, just $1.2 million, went to missions and outreach. Meanwhile, $25.1 million supported the church's TV ministry, $31.7 million went toward weekly services, and millions more were spent on administration, fundraising, and events. For many, this confirmed their suspicions. Lakewood was more media empire than ministry. Though Osteen has not taken a salary from the church since 2004, his wealth, estimated between $50 and $100 million, comes from book royalties and speaking engagements. His debut book, Your Best Life, now sold over 4 million copies. He resides in a $10.5 million mansion, with another $3 million home as well. Admirers see his success as proof his message works. Critics see it as gospel that benefits only the preacher. Controversy even reached the courtroom. In 2011, an electronic band sued Lakewood for using a song after the license had expired, seeking $3 million. The church called it misunderstanding, and a judge eventually sided with them, but the case underscored how large and legally complex religious media empires could become. Transparency became another key issue. In the U.S., Churches aren't required to report their finances to the IRS like other charities, making it difficult for the public to track how funds are spent. While some pastors live in luxury, fly private jets, and run multi-million-dollar operations tax-free, most donors never see detailed financial reports. Even when churches voluntarily disclose numbers, they often reveal significant spending on salaries, media, and events, with little allocated for actual charitable work. This lack of transparency has led many to ask whether megachurches like Lakewood are truly about faith or simply very successful business models. Public distrust hit a peak in August 2017 when Hurricane Harvey devastated Houston. Streets flooded, and thousands of people were stranded without shelter. Lakewood Church, a dry, elevated building with room for over 16,000 people, initially remained closed. Osteen's team claimed the church was inaccessible due to flooding, but locals and online sleuths quickly shared photos showing dry roads and a dry church. The hashtag #OpenLakewoodChurch went viral as outrage spread. Even celebrities called out the church. Days later, after immense public pressure, Lakewood finally opened its doors. But the damage to its reputation was lasting. People remembered local businesses like Mattress Max Furniture Store, which opened immediately to help. Why not Lakewood? The pattern repeated in 2025 during Hurricane Beryl. As power outages and extreme heat swept through Houston, Lakewood distributed 40,000 bottles of water and meals. But again, Joel Osteen's first public response was not a statement of action. Despite efforts to improve its image, Lakewood Church continues to face public skepticism. During Hurricane Beryl, when the church did open its doors and handed out aid, many on social media remained unimpressed, commenting, "You can do better." Others joked, "Is Joel locking the doors again?" A reference to the backlash from Hurricane Harvey. Even members of the congregation admitted they were surprised the church opened at all, showing that the shadow of Harvey still lingers. But the issues extend beyond natural disasters. In 2014, a disturbing incident occurred when a family claimed a church usher grabbed their baby's car seat and tossed it from a pew, causing the 18-month-old to fall face first. Though Lakewood denied wrongdoing, it quietly paid $15,000 to settle the case, asserting charity immunity while avoiding accountability. This raised a bigger question: how does a church of this size and wealth protect its people? Then came a much darker day. On February 11th, 2024, 36-year-old Janice Yvonne Moreno walked into Lakewood Church armed with an AR-15 and accompanied by her 7-year-old son, Samuel. She claimed she had a bomb in her backpack, and at 1:53 p.m., she opened fire inside a hallway, discharging approximately 30 rounds. A 47-year-old man was shot before off-duty police working security returned fire, killing Moreno. In the chaos, young Samuel was shot in the head. What followed was heartbreak. Samuel underwent 2 emergency brain surgeries, lost a portion of his frontal lobe, and had half of his skull removed. For weeks, doctors couldn't even test his brain activity. His grandmother, a rabbi, shared heartbreaking updates. Samuel eventually came off a ventilator after 13 days and lived with his paternal grandmother until her passing the following year. Another victim, a 57-year-old volunteer, was shot in the hip and survived, but the entire Lakewood community was shaken. People asked how such a tragedy could happen in a church with massive resources and security protocols. Surveillance footage revealed how easily Moreno entered, even calmly pointing a gun at an unarmed guard. Moreno had a history of schizophrenia and a criminal record. Her gun bore a Palestine sticker, and police later discovered anti-Semitic writings and praise for terror groups in her belongings. Shockingly, she was able to purchase the AR-15 legally just 2 months prior, due to the absence of red flag laws in Texas. After the shooting, Joel Osteen addressed the congregation, offering prayers for the victims and even for Moreno. He told people not to lose faith, urging them to move forward. While some appreciated the sentiment, many were deeply dissatisfied. Critics accused Osteen of sidestepping urgent issues like gun control, mental health, and systemic failure. Samuel's grandmother publicly begged for stronger laws, joined by other faith leaders, but Osteen continued to emphasize hope over policy change. A police investigation stretched over a year, and in February 2025, the case was handed to the district attorney. A grand jury would now decide not only on the shooter's actions, but also on the broader systemic failures. How a woman so unstable could walk into a megachurch fully armed and with a child. In the aftermath, trust was shattered. The boy's name, Samuel, became a symbol of how institutions failed at every level. And beyond the tragedy, Lakewood faces another slow-burning crisis. Its congregation is aging. Attendance among younger generations is plummeting. Only 16% of millennials go to church regularly, and among Gen Z, that number is down to 15%, the lowest in U.S. history. These younger people still seek meaning, but not through massive sanctuaries or celebrity pastors. They crave authenticity, social justice, and community-driven action. Lakewood's brand of prosperity preaching doesn't resonate with them. Instead, they turn to digital faith communities, small groups, and activism that feels grounded in everyday struggles, not polished sermons and million-dollar stages.